go, I don't know what ends it stands, not waiting, it's 32, according to the wrong clock.
It's included in a portion that's got you kind of scratching your head in some ways. This wasn't designed by an engineer. I wanna read something, this is from the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. And it's, specifically something that happened back there about 2 years ago now. That MDAR's overall goal is to positively address competing good land use issues. To achieve this, below are the conditions under which MDAR may allow solar operations on land enrolled in Farmland Development Rights Program. There are two major goals of this approach. One, to allow solar energy facilities to be placed on lands enrolled in Farmland Development Right Program, which we know it as PA 116. Second, to preserve agricultural land for future use as intended by the Farmland and Open Space Preservation Act. MDAR may permit solar energy developments on lands enrolled in Farmland Development Rights Program provided, and then they've got the list. And so basically, if land is signed up in P 116, it can still participate in this solar, even though it's many of us thought, you know, that's a type of development. But this takes place, so this kind of opens up the situation, because there's a lot of the farmland in Milan Township is in P 116. Land in London Township that's in a lot of land in London Township P 116. And the state actually recognizes that. Then we've got the challenge, what is the demand for electricity? We've got coal plants being decommissioned. They can't build a new nuclear plant for any reason, basically. And then we've got a Secretary of Energy, Granholm, who's pushing heavy on electric cars. The demand for additional electricity is going to simply increase. And you've got refineries that are not building or expanding the oil processing portion of it, because they're concerned with all the automobile industry coming forward and saying that they're going to be electric by 2025 or 2030, or whoever wants to come out, that they're going to be electric tomorrow. Bottom line, there's going to be additional demand. Now, if you're going to be an electrician or had somebody in your family want to be an electrician, that's where you want to be for the new hot job, because a lot of these homes have got to be wired for at least 200 amp, because most homes are only 100 amp service, and most of these cars, I think it's like a 75 amp requirement to charge these cars. I'm not an expert because I don't have an electric car.
Right, it takes another 100 amp service.
Yeah, and so, when they come out with an electric tractor, that's when I'm gonna have to rewire some myself.
Alright.
I'm wired for 400 amps at our farm, but, with all the discussion and the concern, and I believe in private property rights, and I don't believe in local government picking winners and losers by where and where not. The other thing is, I'm not looking at putting solar on my farm for any reason, but on the same note, it does add value or perceived value to my property. And with new sprayers costing $300,000 and combines at $750,000, when you go and knock on the door at your lender and you're working up your net worth statement, you want it to look as good as you can. So this perceived value does add to the bottom line for when you're borrowing. And for some farmers, that may be important, or may get them a better interest rate. They're the people who are paying the taxes, made the payments on the property all this time. People are concerned about their view shed, but they're not paying Rick or Dwayne anything for looking at their cornfields or bean fields. They're paying the taxes on that. And so I've got a simple proposal to cure this regarding this solar overlay. I would move that we amend the ordinance that we created back on July 5th of 2021, that then specifically states on, to amend page 2, under section 11.04, under number A, that we add 1, solar energy systems are allowed on all areas zoned agriculture 1, prime conservation, agriculture 2, or reserve, or industrial research. End of discussion. And that then covers anybody and everybody for wherever landowner.
Say again, where you're gonna put that?
It was on the second of the ordinance that we passed and gave to the township board back there on June 5th, and then they had, or excuse me, July 5th.
Where?
They then had it, July 12th or something like that, and had the discussions that Ron then threw out this idea that he didn't bring to us at any point prior to, that we simply put in on the second page, under, section 11.04, large solar energy systems, under A, which is the proposed and
And
intent,
intent.
that we put in a number 1, which then this clarifies that large, solar energy systems are allowed on all areas zoned agriculture 1, prime, conservation, what's the word? Yeah, conservation, agriculture 2, reserve, or industrial research.
I got ag 1, prime, conservation, ag 2, what was the rest of it?
Reserve, and then, industrial and research. And we don't have any industrially zoned area in the township.
So, my opinion of all this personally is, first off, this isn't drawn up properly, but that's besides the point. But I guess like you said, the government doesn't pick winners and losers, but I disagree with that, because they do pick commercial property and they do pick residential, and you can only create certain things in commercial and residential due to the residential people and how it's accessed and all that is picked depending on the land. But this does create a monopoly where nobody else, and so I'm kinda on the fence with it, to be quite honest with you, cause I mean, if you're saying, if like, this was a commercial project and you were like, well, we don't wanna do it anywhere, then a commercial project could go anywhere within the whole township. But at least this is limited to a location where they can't continue through the whole township and basically take all, whatever farmland or whatever they want to do for the rest of the township. I mean, it's kind of both ways for me.
Well,
But I mean, I see where you're coming from too, but on the other hand, I'm concerned really majorly about the power lines, cause I know for a fact, if somebody comes in here and has a 200-acre partial, 300-acre partial, whatever it is, and they wanna turn that into a solar overlay, I would almost bet you DTE would get a grant to run power lines right to it.
well,
And that's gonna happen, because they're pushing it so hard, so then you're gonna be going through everybody's property with power lines, and people that have no concern of, or even gonna be seeing the solar district's gonna have a huge power line running through their back of their woods or something that they've been paying taxes on, but they don't have a right to it, because
there's
that's.
nothing that prevents that now anyway.
That's right.
There's nothing that prevents that from occurring, cause.
Well, yeah, because it's a
on the
special
same
use.
note, yeah, because on the same note, we've got, Collingwood, so let's say, the water lines, if water lines come into London Township, build it and they will come. And you will have more homes fragmenting up farmland faster. So people move out here because they don't want neighbors. It's not for the quality water and it's not for the
But
quality.
I think it's also the
It's 'cause
view
they
of the
don't.
country too, and looking at a
But
solar.
are you paying either of these gentlemen? to
No,
look
but
at
you're
their
buying a
fields?
view, it's like you live on a lake, you're not paying for the lake, or live near the ocean, you're not paying for the ocean, you're paying for the look of the ocean.
Yeah,
You don't own it.
You buy the lot next to the ocean, because if you don't, somebody else buys it and builds a house. And then all of a sudden, your view is gone. You talk to the people in downtown Chicago, they build these big high rises and they sold these multi-million-dollar
I get it, but
apartments.
not everybody's
with the view of the
financially
lake.
able to buy
And
100
then-
acres to stare
But
at.
then they buy the next block over and somebody builds a bigger building, you don't see the lake anymore. And there's nothing that prevents
I'm
that.
not saying you don't have a right as a homeowner to do what you want, I get it, or a landowner, I get that, but I mean, this is a farm country, county, and I mean, even in our book, that's what it states.
Yep.
I mean, and now
And
we're turning it into something different.
That's why I read this. The
Yeah, I mean-
state of Michigan recognizes that agriculture is where the solar should be, or could be. And that's why they did that, a change to the PA 116. And that was something.
I mean, that's just my concerns with it, that's all.
Yeah, I never thought about the overhead power lines, now you got me thinking.
Well, I can tell you.
I mean, you see them power lines by my house, the down Snell, like all Ostrander and all that, them huge power lines, that's what they have to run for distribution lines.
And those been there for years.
Correct, but if they decide to build a whole section of solar on the other side of township that they don't have those power lines, they're gonna
Hey.
run them.
If they decide to build a nuclear power plant right beside the one that they got in Monroe, they're gonna do it,
That's right.
period. And I'll tell you what, I would much rather see a solar panel melt down than a nuclear power
Oh,
plant
for
melt
sure.
down.
Right,
They're gonna get the energy from somewhere. That's what I'm gonna tell you. It's gonna come from somewhere.
We buy electricity from Canada, or we had at one point in time.
But there's a lot of non-residential areas in this country that they could be building these solar panels at, that have no houses, that they're not building 50 feet from a house. That's my concern. Somebody that's lived there for 30, 40 years and all they've seen is nature and wildlife and everything else, gonna turn around and build, and I understand it's not their property, I get that. But it's still just an aspect of, a lot of people buy a house here for that reason. And when you take that away, you have no city water, you have no cable, you have solar panels throughout the whole damn place. And who's gonna come here and buy a house? What's your value? It's already proposed that it decreases your value of
You
your
will have
home.
a school district that won't be coming back to us for additional new bonds or additional tax increases because you throw
But I don't,
$50 million
I
into
don't
that.
think anybody's bitching about London Township's taxes. They're one of the lowest taxes around. I mean, they can complain all they want, but in reality,
I don't know, there's a couple
You wanna pay
gentlemen.
it on the farmland,
Yeah.
sell cheaper.
Alright.
Yeah.
well, I'm saying residential houses in general. They're cheaper here than any other township around, let's put it that way. So, I mean, we can argue that either way,
We
but
need to quit talking over each other.
that's just my opinion, and that's all.
Yep, your opinion's well taken. You was gonna say something a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the overhead power lines, can that be run underground?
No,
Not the main.
not those,
Okay, just never got that far, never entertained that idea.
those ones go across country.
Okay.
Right.
On the
But my guess
present
is
technology, let's put it
they're
that
not-
way.
They're not going to Jim's point, I'm not disputing your point, but they're not gonna run a set of power lines like that to go for a 200-acre solar farm. I mean, they're bringing 1,500 acres
There's
of solar.
but there's a lot of farmland, they could make an 1,800-acre solar farm.
I understand, but they've done that, they're gonna do that, or they want to do that in Milan Township, and that is still gonna come underground to their power lines. So, you know, to the point, whatever would be left in our township would be something that could be done underground. And if
But
it
where
was
would they
good-
go to though?
If
They have
they
to go
were,
all the way back to our place to,
if they were going to do that overhead, it would be because they were going somewhere to get far more power than they're gonna get from another solar.
I'm not saying them guys go over there, I'm saying DTE coming to
I
them.
understand what you're saying. But it wouldn't be for what's left in London Township, in my estimation. It would be because there was a bigger project happening, there was something else going on. And maybe at that point, we would want somebody in this part of the township to be able to tap in and take advantage of that. Put his kids through school if they want, or whatever.
But it could also be somebody over in Augusta Township decides to do solar and they could come right through London Township with power lines to get to it too.
No, they got
They
the
are
sol-
doing
they-
solar
they got,
in
they're
Augusta.
doing a huge, the Whitetail project is in Augusta Township and it's underway, it's in front of the planning commission. The thing is where, because of the substation up there on Willow Road, that gives them some of the ability to get power in there and there, so that one's a done, you know,
It's happening.
or I
Yeah.
should say no brainer, because you've got the access to the grid. That's a key component, cause here's another illustration. When that Sears group came in and bought Gary Heath's farm, and when I found out it was a one person buyer, one group buyer, I contacted the auctioneers and I asked them, I said, are they gonna farm it? And his reply was, he didn't know, which told me they weren't necessarily farmers who bought it. So I immediately called Apex, I called Whitetail, and I said, did you guys buy this project? Cause I figured property, cause in some aspects I wanted to work some of the ground that was near me. Neither one bought that, because you could have bought that land for about $300 an acre less than what they're paying for leases. But it didn't work for where getting into the grid, and the cost to get it in, what they had to do for the engineering. So it comes down to dollars and cents.
Yeah, no,
And putting in power lines is expensive. Another illustration, right down Darling Road here, oh, what was her name? Young lady, not
I mean, I
Kwan,
can see why
but
people
she
would do
built-
it, don't
she
get me
built-
wrong.
She built a house, and because they couldn't get the electricity to it, because the neighbors where they had to run it by would not let the trees in front of on their property be cut. There was no houses there, but they would not let the trees be cut and that's on public access. They've got the road right away. So that house never got power to it, even though it was done in Meisler. You know, they're trying to get moved in, they couldn't get occupancy because they couldn't get power. They ended up, she couldn't get the power, she lost the house, the whole thing, and then went through the whole shooting match. They come in, they took that modular, tore it out, took it away. Eventually, they got some kind of agreement, they got the power line in, a house went back in on that foundation, but that young lady, she lost her credit, she lost the house,
Yeah.
she's not there. And so that's just an illustration for, it's difficult to get a power line, to get it anywhere that's overhead.
Well, for sure.
And that's right down Darling Road, just before you get to, the wooded area down there on Township.
I can just see everybody's concerns when they're frustrated with it, because it's something new, and it's something different that they're not seeing. And that's just all I'm saying, I mean, I get it.
Instead of doing like a solar overlay, would it be possible to put like a cap on like so many acres or something like that? Because, I mean, we may
That
not
is
have
an
a solar
overlay.
overlay right now, but I could promise you, that if all of a sudden they just start lining up, you know, down that power line just blowing up, they start extending over, this township's gonna go crazy, and then they're still gonna create a solar overlay or do something to prevent it. They're gonna come, they're gonna trip out.
Well, see,
I'm not saying it'll happen,
the challenge for the
but-
solar folks is you guys have to deal with DTE. You have to deal with consumers. You gotta get their agreement to allow you for net metering and what they're gonna pay to allow that back in the grid, correct? And if Detroit Edison decides that specific line's got as much power and Edison's selling the power, that they don't necessarily wanna buy yours back penny on the dollar, or, instead of paying
Dollar,
11
dollar.
cents. Yeah, 11 cents a kilowatt, and they're only gonna pay you guys 2 or 3 cents, or they get a tax credit because it's green energy, and the way it all folds out for what they're gonna be willing to pay for it. If you were putting solar panels on your roof of your garage, or like Coulter's Dairy Barn, and that just runs his farm is what it's doing. But if he was to net meter it back in, he's only gonna get like 2 cents a kilowatt.
Yep.
It's a fraction, correct?
Nick could probably speak to this. It works a little different for us than it would for
Yeah.
like community solar, where they
Correct.
do have to do that.
Yeah.
At utility scale, the utilities would most likely own the project or have a power purchase agreement to buy the power
Yeah.
from the project. But it doesn't work exactly like net metering
Right.
does for residential solar.
But you're not getting the full 11 cents.
It's not a wholesale. Yeah, it's not a.
Yeah.
It's a wholesale price, not
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
retail
Right.
electricity
Yeah.
price. Exactly.
Right.
And the bottom line, to make an economy go, you have to have energy, and electricity is the energy that we seem to be moving everything towards. And bottom line, we've gotta come up with electricity somehow.
No, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I also could see how this could reverse, on the other hand, of kind of what your theory is, because let's use an example. Let's say somebody has 1,000 acres over near Snell Road or something, and they decide, we're just gonna put solar panels all the way down it because the transmission line's right there and it's efficient, and, you know, they might have the capacity, may not, but I'm just using this as an example. If that happens, more than likely, a lot of people are gonna come to this township complaining, and they're gonna try to limit it down, but when that happens, then it can backfire on the people on the other side of the township that, you see what I mean, that it could prevent them later on because we're opening up so much right there.
Well,
So so what I'm saying is I was just wondering if there was a way to kind of put like so many acres over there, like where we basically have like a board or whatever it may be of, you know what, I'm just trying to think of another scenario other than a solar overlay, where it don't just overwhelm one side and it basically shuts the other side of the township down. Because I'm thinking what might happen is we might not do it, we probably, you know, this may not pass as a solar overlay, but it may end up being a solar overlay. You see what I'm getting at the end of the day, and if there was something we can do to try to make it more fair across the board, even long term, I would suggest maybe trying to do that now. I'm not saying that's possible.
More
we don't have-
fair across the board, so,
Okay.
when you say more fair across the board, so, when you say cap or limit this overlay, how is that fair to this person and this person?
Because if they can only do 200 acres over here, but you can only do 1,000 acres over the whole township, that means this person at some point would have an opportunity. Because right now, if they line this up, I promise you, somebody's gonna shut it down from getting to this side. If they line that thing all the way up, let's just assume
That's
the whole
why
black
Doug's,
thing.
that's why Doug's
But then it's
motion that he put there was Ag 1, Ag 2,
and industrial,
commercial. It's encompassing,
the entire township.
Yes, no, I understand that.
But
That's
so
easy
can we
to say
cap,
now,
total
but that's
acreage?
because you're not seeing 1,000 acres.
Because then we're
worth of-
picking winners and losers.
Not
I'm not saying it's
necessarily,
gonna
you're
happen,
allowing
I'm just
so
using
much
it
in
as
the
an
town.
example.
one
So,
conversation,
I'll
please.
right there.
Yeah,
They're going to put a
Yeah,
limit on this
it's-
side.
That's not.
if we're gonna accomplish something, we gotta quit talking over each other.
But you see what I'm getting at though, I'm not saying it's the right way, wrong way, I'm just
Well,
trying to make it
but,
fair, long term,
Do,
cause I feel
do
like
you
this could
have
go
the
on.
wisdom to pick the number that we need at this point?
No, I'm just using that as
Well,
an
that's what I'm saying, that's why I'm using the illustration, we don't have you don't have the engineering background, I don't. These folks, they know what they can do economically for this point, but we don't know where it's gonna be 5 years or 10 years from now for that type of a scenario. And if we go off and we set parameters that picks winners and losers, that's what I'm saying, there might be somebody over here that if there's no way there's gonna ever be solar on there, well, then their value of their property is less. And so when they're going to borrow, or in a situation like one of these gentlemen or somebody else that was here tonight, they own 500 acres, but they're willing to put 100 acres or 50 acres in because that income is gonna allow them to buy the 500 or 200 acres next door to them so they can keep more into farming as opposed to seeing more houses. Cause gee, we've never said, hey, we should limit how many homes come into our township. Cause those homes, you gotta have power, you gotta have roads, they got driveways, they got more mailboxes that farmers have to store around there. Yeah, we have, but we've eased those up, we scaled back for what our requirements.
I mean, a lot of
We don't
cities
have
ordinances
anything that says
are
you
saying
can't
limits.
have a maximum number of homes, or we don't have anything that says all homes have to be white, and they all have to have metal roofs.
Well, you say all homes have to have so many acres to build,
But let's have a
in
point
a
of
certain
order.
area, that's.
Yeah.
that's
But
kinda what
they-
that's-
but then
if
they
you
can
gotta
come
have
in.
one, you gotta have what?
Alright, guys, this is good discussion, but we keep going back to the same spot.
We got planned unit
Maybe we need to
developments.
have some engineer look at it and figure it out.
Well,
There's
alright,
that, Brett.
I'm gonna speak my piece for a moment here. To be honest, we worked on this, we argued about this, thought about this, worked it through, and sent it to the board the way it was without a solar overlay. We're having this whole discussion today because somebody was on a power trip and decided to draw on a frickin' map. And we have now used an hour and a half of the township's time to go over something that I thought was done in July. We haven't even got to extraction yet, guys. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Pam or Leroy? Doug had made a proposal. I think we should see if there's any other comments, and maybe we should entertain a motion, see where we're at.
I'd like to hear his proposal one more time.
Well, there was,
Go ahead.
Doug made a motion, didn't get support.
No, it was a proposal, he said. He didn't make it in the form of a motion.
Before that, I thought there was a motion.
Well, all right, I'll phrase it correctly then. I move that we amend the ordinance already approved by the Township Plan Commission on July 5th, 2021, to amend page number 2, section 11.04, under section A, which is, I didn't write that part down, which is,
Purchase and intent.
Purpose and intent.
proposal and purpose and intent, that we add the language, added number 1, large solar energy systems are allowed in all areas zoned agriculture 1, prime conservation, agriculture 2, reserve, industrial research. And I included the word reserve because you go back to some of our old books and they say agriculture 1 or they say ag prime or ag reserve, and that's why I referenced it that way, because it's not completely cleaned up in all the spots in this book.
So that is put forth as a motion.
I'll
Do I hear a
support it.
second?
I'll support it.
Motion support. Any other quick discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to, all in favor?
Well,
Say aye.
Probably need a roll call vote on that one.
Go roll call.
Okay, a roll call vote. Leroy Ziske,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Chairman Cable's a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Darling,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Nichols,
What is it, Dale?
and
Yes.
Mr. Darrell. All right,
And
I'm over
I
here
need
still.
it.
Yes.
all right. Motion is carried. Thank you so much. So we will get this rewrote, get that added in, and get that to the board Monday.
Yes.
And the planning commission does not ever wanna hear about solar again.
Oh, wait, we're going to, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, when you come back, get signatures, come see us, we'll talk to you then. Alright? Good conversation, guys.
Very good,
We've been here a long time.
and I appreciate you opinion and his insight, cause it's valid.
Okay. Next, we moved number 2 to be extractive ordinance. Number 4, Leroy's.
It's 9 o'clock. You're
I
not
will
gonna get
entertain all motions, guys.
motion to adjourn supersedes all
No.
other non-debatable.
We need to spend
Well,
a little bit of time on this.
So I'll be quite honest with you about this extraction ordinance. You know,
Okay.
We spent like 3 years on this thing, and we approved
Yes,
it, and
we
we
did.
sent it to the board, and somehow we got niched on a little technical error,
Right.
and I'm not understanding why we're going through this whole thing again anyway. I believe that
So-
what we have set is what we all agreed on and sent to the board. Why are we
Because
beating a
we,
dead hat here, going over it again? I don't understand.
to be perfectly honest, if I may I? We had a gentleman that worked, was in a position of some knowledge that insisted on adding and changing many things. He is no longer with the township, and I am all in favor, that's why Doug printed this, sent it to us, printed it off and handed it out. If you all wanna go home and go through this,
I can read
this
it.
is what we agreed on November of 19,
Yes,
is when we put this all, that's before Mr. Youngblood got a hold of it and created setbacks and all that kind of stuff. And I think that if we wanna study this and bring it back to finish it next month, that's fine. Or, if you wanna tender a motion to just go back and use this that we did 3 years ago, Jim, I'm all on board, we'll knock 2 of these out tonight, and I'll sleep well tonight.
I'll make a board that we approve the extraction operation in November 2019, like we sent to the board in the first place.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Alright. All in favor, say aye.
alright.
Aye. All opposed?
The old analogy, if you plow the same field 5 times, you never plant anything, you don't get anything out
Well,
of
that's
it.
like Rantoul. Motion's carried, guys. Extraction is
Wow.
complete. We're gonna send this to the board.
And
That was already approved by the board, I
by the
believe.
planning commission, yes.
But I think the township board
No,
approved it.
the board did not
They
get it
adopted
because,
it.
well, not the extraction, cause what we did was, we got the extraction completely done, and we were under the impression, just like Leroy and I have been forever, is that once you completed an ordinance, then you had the public hearing for the people to look at the finished product. Is there something we need to tweak, something we need to change? Well, then, courtesy of all these years, I had never caught it, but Mr. Youngblood, to his credit, did read it, and McKenna and Associates, they monkeyed around our zoning book, where you're supposed to have a public hearing up front. And so that's what set us backwards, why this whole process got redone. But we reiterated not to change anything that we had with the fill or with the extraction, or the pond. And yet, when we got these things, he'd spent money with the engineers reviewing it, the amount of time, and the attorneys re-reviewing it, which they had already done previously, cause I still had their emails as well, that, because of the change that McKenna's had done, you know, Leroy and I, we'd always done the public hearings after we had them done. And this change of pace completely twists us around, so.
To me, it makes no sense having a public hearing if the public doesn't know what you're looking
Exactly.
at. I understand you should have a public hearing for input to say, we want you to look at this project.
Yes.
But it's stupid to do it first and then, made no sense.
At some point this winter, what we should do, Leroy, you and I sit down and talk about what McKenna goofed, well, they goofed up a lot of
I
other
still
things in
have
this
my
book.
list.
Yeah, you still got like a 3-5 page list, but specifically to go back into the book right at the very beginning where it outlines that process, and we put that public hearing back in after we get the
After we
work
get all
done.
these done, then we get rid of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, yeah, no,
So
we're,
Well, the
that'd be
book's
a
gonna
perfect
get up
time to go through it.
we got enough things on the oven right now on the stove.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. We're gonna look at fill operations yet?
Or due to the time and Leroy question about the Gerard. I
That's
would move
fine
that
with
we
me.
table, or Phil, because that one's lengthy, because we've got the fill ordinance that we had done, and then we got the one that after I did the review that Ron changed around.
Right.
What
Okay.
we need to do is I'll try to dig out the one that we had basically done and went to the board, and the board then didn't adopt it.
So
because the
let
board
us, do I have a motion to table the fill operations till next month then?
About the volumes. Yeah,
I'll
I
make a
move,
motion to table it.
Doug already
Or,
used
no,
oh, man,
support.
oh, I'll second it, sorry.
Alright,
I support Daryl's.
we got that?
Just fix that.
Alright, so we are to number 4 under unfinished business.
We gotta, you gonna take the vote on that?
Oh, yeah, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on. Okay. Good point. You guys. Leroy had put this, list together. Oh, well, here it is. There's been some changes. We approved a site plan for the property, that Ed Gerard bought. And I agree with Leroy wholeheartedly. There were some things that come up the night we approved it, pending that there was gonna be a roadway change and things like that. There's been enough things happen, I think maybe we should ask Mr. Gerard for an updated site plan and reapprove. He hasn't started anything, he's not ready to do anything yet anyways.
The information was, even in the original permit, this road commission permit he got from the road commission, they copied,
Yeah,
which they would normally do, but they failed to change that he's going to keep Allison Road upgraded instead of Okie Road.
right.
Which, knowing Ed, he'll figure that out real quick and say, I don't have to do anything on Okie Road because I have it okayed with the road commission. Okay.
Right.
Also, he talked about some berms on Okie Road, but he wasn't real precise on where those were at. Also, he claimed that if they changed the trucks going in off of Plank Road, that he was going to create some berms so the neighbors wouldn't have to look at the next door neighbor's lights or whatever. He built some berms, but it's not totally sure where that was defined at. Because he had to go to the road commission, I understand that, but
Right.
some of this stuff is, if Ron was around, he should have made sure it happened. The location of Plank Road. He also made a statement that because he couldn't go through CN's property, and that was the gentleman at the
Right.
beginning of the meeting, property. I don't know why he didn't go along Okie Road and just put a tile along in the road right away.
I never quite understood that myself.
Okay, and then you can get the water to the lake, and he shouldn't have had to bother his neighbor's property in the first place, but he took an 80-foot wide swath of trees out of the neighbor's property, so it did not make the neighbor very happy. We also, in our ordinance always says that deed restriction and splitting properties, we never make anybody do that, although it's what they're supposed to be. And another concern that Doug would probably also agree with is back when London Aggregate, London Sands, whatever, before they opened up the road, or their extra driveway up on Oakville Waltz Road.
Right.
That the buses, the trucks were blocking the buses in the morning because they got there, and the Milan bus system started early in the morning. It was the same situation as in the Dundee district on Plank Road. They'll be before they were on Okie Road, and they always were blocking traffic there, but there wasn't oncoming traffic, so they didn't have the bigger problem as they're gonna have on Plank, because Plank is pretty busy now. Everybody figures out a way to get away from, bypass Dundee to go from Monroe to Ann Arbor or whatever.
Will the cops not ticket them for that?
Well, what?
They should. I mean, it's-
I understand that, Jim, but you got a truck coming down there, and by the time you get the cops out there, you probably open the gate. What I'm saying is he might figure out a way to get him in his property and maybe shut a gate inside. He can do that quite easily. Get him
Like
off
put
the
it back
road.
where that goes out, like put it back farther or something.
Yeah,
Well, he's coming off a plank road.
No, right, but there's like a lot basically that's right in between the two houses that the driveways.
right,
Well, it's basically across from my creek.
Yeah, right there, so if he put the fence across here, that would give all that acreage of basically pulling it off the road. Is that what you're saying, trying to get at?
Yeah, well, but my understanding is get the trucks off the road.
right.
Okay, let's not cause, because it's gonna happen. Sooner or later, Dundee's gonna call somebody and have a major problem. And the worst off we want is, because when those, I'll give you an example. I live exactly, my mailbox is exactly between those two curves.
Right,
I can have a car coming around the curve on each end. I walk across the road, I get to the mailbox, and they pass right in front of me. So you don't have much time for a school bus to get around the corner because you got the curves, you can't see.
right.
On Oak Road,
It's
you
a
can see
bad,
a
it's
mile
kind of
away.
a bad area right there.
Yeah.
with them curves.
Yes, sir.
Leroy, so are we looking to like send Ed this letter and say the planning commission would like you to come in and address all these bullet points right here, since there's been, changes to the site plan since you appeared before the planning commission?
That is my, that
Yeah.
was my thought.
I'll make that motion.
Well, I don't know whether there's something else you wanna add.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Find
I
out
mean,
first.
these points right here, he needs to come in and,
I understand.
address.
But is there something else to, if you look at the plan, is there something else you might wanna add to the list? That's all I'm
Well, I
saying.
mean, I don't know what the expense is, and I'm not really the first one to create new expenses for, like him or not, a businessman in the township. But in some respects, there's been enough changes, is it out of the realm of possibility to ask for a new site plan?
Well, he was supposed to change the site plan anyway,
Yeah, for the.
to include,
So what we need to do is go back to him and tell him that we're holding up his
Well, I
permits.
think that was on the level of him getting approval.
right,
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
So he's not gonna get approval until he presents that.
correct,
anyway.
yeah,
Right.
but we'd like other stuff added, so he needs to come
The
in.
concern about the berms, they are shown as the design for the Okie Road around there. The concern
Right.
is because of the change in the entrance, how the
Well,
berms
he
are gonna
might,
be done.
when they give him the
Yeah.
site plan with that
Yeah.
driveway, it
Yeah,
might
sure.
show
Right.
go
That's what they're
around.
gonna
That's
show.
what I'm
That's what
saying,
I'm
it might all be addressed, it's just.
so if we ask for a new site plan, your points are addressed in that site plan, and ask him to come back.
Yeah, cause he made a statement that he was not going to do any dewatering. And if that's the case, he needs to define that.
Right,
I mean, all of a sudden, somebody starting to pump water somewhere on somebody else's property is not right.
right.
We're,
No, I agree, there's been some things that's changed.
I mean, there's an
With-
ample
with-
amount of pond acreage there to dig one in there.
he
Well,
sold all that, Jim. He sold the 2 ponds, he sold the 7.
No,
He says as he's digging, he
Yeah,
could
there's
pump from one to
lake,
another.
this lake and this lake, dig one lake, pump into the other, they've done it all the time, I've seen it happen, that's how this got
Right.
done, I
And
mean,
it's
They'll,
predominantly
they'll
Oakville.
dig a hole and
it's all
pump one
sand,
way
I
and
mean,
then
yeah,
they'll
it's
pump
gonna
the
drain,
other.
I mean,
It's Oakville sand.
but I mean, I'm sure that can be asked to be put on the,
That's all I'm saying.
for sure.
Okay,
Well, I think we need to
I
look at
agree.
we need to look at citizens' concerns list, when they had that meeting, all the citizens came and they submitted a letter, all that needs to be integrated in this as well before it's presented to Ed.
Well, most of those were discussed.
Well,
Yeah.
another situation is
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know yet.
I'm looking.
that the way
Make
his
sure it's out there.
driveway is going to be created, his driveway is going to be almost anywhere from a half to plus miles on the property. Because he's coming off the Plank Road, he's gonna go all the way to the back of the property and then come across the Okie Road. So there's gonna be a lot of dust just from the trucks moving. Before, the dust was all in the back of the property on the east side. But now you're going to have dust that is going to be,
But I mean,
If I remember
I think that
correctly,
berm's
he's
going all
chlorine.
around the property, so
Yep.
that's supposed to
No,
help.
no, if I remember correctly, he was gonna enter on Plank Road and then also leave on Plank Road, so that
No.
he didn't have
That's
to.
the way it is now.
Yeah, that's the way,
Well,
that's
that's
what
the
the
way
road
it's
commission
set.
did.
Yeah, that's-
The road
We
commission
thought
changed
that when we left the meeting at night, it was gonna exit on Okie Road.
Yeah.
Right.
The
And road commission come said, if you're gonna put a driveway on Plank Road, you're gonna use a driveway on Plank
Well,
Road.
then nobody has to maintain Okie.
Then the people on Okie Road are out, there should be fine, and that will go back to being maintained by the county.
It's just a traffic hazard on Plank. That's a busy road with all the curves and now
It
you have
is.
two driveways in and
Also,
out
it
instead of
is.
just the
But
one.
also,
That's the first I've
Okie
heard of
Road
that.
right there is actually at a corner too, I mean, it's actually
It's,
kind of.
it's actually worse, cause it is
Yeah.
on the
on the
curve.
corner. So I thought-
Yeah, I know, when
There's a
I
stop
come
sign.
off that road, it's tough.
That is a
There's a
bad area.
stop sign,
So-
so it's expected.
Anita, the list of concerns that the people had, I believe they were all addressed, but it would be nice if you could find that again.
Yes, I just had it in my hand here.
Well, I didn't have it in my folder, so you must have took mine.
Mine's at home.
Okay,
I just read
I
it.
got it.
Yeah, I thought we did.
I think it's
That's why we
addressed, I
approved
just,
it to begin with.
right.
I didn't-
This one.
Can you read them off for us?
Yeah, I can read them. The notice of well, this is a notice for the public hearing.
No, this
This isn't
referencing
the
this
list,
one.
that's the list.
Yeah, it's,
Doug's got.
moved to the neighborhood to enjoy quietness and open space, chose a dirt road for less traffic, not happy about the daily truck traffic, concerned, expected 100 trucks a day,
Oh, we've
for 10
solved that.
hours, can't go for a walk or bike ride, many days, trucks parked on the road waiting to get in, and that's back to Leroy's concern about getting the traffic in and staging. We had those conversations about
We did.
opening up the Plank Road entrance in so he could get them off of Plank Road and get them staged. So then that way the people didn't have to deal with it on Okie Road or the school buses that way. So that portion was discussed.
That's right.
See, most recent bulldozing on Memorial Day evening, spreading water on Tuesday at, June 1st at 9:30 PM. Well,
Is that on the road?
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't, yeah,
Be a
would
good
have
time
been
to
on
do
the
it
road.
if it's soak in.
And then, home repairs, already experiencing increase in sulfur smell from previous digging. That wouldn't be sulfur, that would be methane if you smelt anything when you get decaying.
Well,
So-
Doug, when we get the smell from the cement
Oh,
plant.
the cement plant?
Yeah,
Yeah, their water, yes, there's enough of that.
there are certain days that the.
Where their water-
Air is,
Yeah. Okay,
air is such, you get a sulfur smell.
that's why, and the prevailing wind is from that direction towards those people. So, okay. Once in a while you drive down the expressway, you can smell it.
Yeah.
So, let's see, hours, and we talked about that, number of trucks. Use of chloride, not salt water, been happening, proper equipment maintenance. It's just, we can make a copy of it, but,
I think everything was addressed.
yeah, or it was
thought it was.
discussed.
I mean, a lot of it goes away getting on Hokey Road, that's like 90% of the concerns with the
Yep.
buses and all that other stuff, so, and the dust and everything, so.
But you,
The road being tore up, I mean, that's no longer gonna happen.
And you're throwing it back out on Plank Road though.
What's that?
You're throwing it back out on Plank Road
Yeah,
though.
that's maintained.
Well, and
That's the
trucks were gonna be
safety.
on that road anyways, it just changes the entrance point.
Well, if that's the case, then number 4 on this list needs to have an S put on it, locations, plural, of driveways on Plank.
well, the road commission's been out, right, Leroy, that they've been out, did they stake it physically?
Well, it wouldn't be
No.
plural, it's entering and exit of the same driveway.
Yep,
Oh, same, okay.
Egress, egress,
yeah,
It's not state.
okay,
no,
but Daryl's already got the motion. and-
Yeah, the site plan has changed,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah,
the site plan's changed. If these are addressed, Ed can come in and say, you know, this has been addressed or that's been addressed, and then everybody will be on the same page, and I think, at least he needs to explain any of this stuff that's
Now,
on there.
It should be on the physical site plan that we can
Right.
look at, okay?
Yeah.
I can wait right
Absolutely.
in front of you, so everybody's got the exact same thing.
Yep,
alright,
But does that just go to the board?
I got the motion out there,
is there a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Second it.
Alright, it's been moved and seconded, is there any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4 is covered, motion is carried. We're gonna move on to new business. And seeing as we had none on our agenda,
Yeah.
I guess let's go to second citizens time.
Pretty good, Leader.
Yeah,
Let's talk about aggregate industries, or aggregate industries.
okay,
Darryl, you
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I know. They're still working on a special use permit, right? Which is renewed annually.
Yep.
So who do I talk to on the board to come out and I can point and talk about concerns instead of me sitting here and talking about it and nobody's got a clue.
Where you live at?
You know where Eric Rogers was, Gerald Rogers?
Yeah,
Just down the road from you.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay,
Actually, I live on Townsend Road,
okay,
the farm there.
right,
So, yeah, I got a significant amount of frontage right along down, plus another quarter
Right.
mile along Alfie Road.
okay.
So, I'm tired of dealing with Rob Hayes. I don't wanna deal with Rob Hayes
Okay.
anymore. I shouldn't have to.
All
So
right.
which one of you wants to volunteer to come on out? Would everybody jump at once?
Well,
You should be.
yeah, it should have been our zoning administrator, but he was busy changing things we wrote down at the meeting prior.
How are we sitting?
Didn't see it.
He did some good things.
I don't know,
How are
Bill,
we
you
sitting
posted
on a zoning?
It's on the agenda,
It's on
we
the
do
agenda
have
for tomorrow,
5 or 6 applicants for it.
5 resumes that I've all
5
sent.
resumes.
And the proper way is him going out, getting the information. and
Yeah,
bringing it back
that
to
would
us.
be the
That
proper way for us to have somebody from the township that's in the employ. It wouldn't be for any of us to come up as citizens.
I know nobody was willing to come out before, so.
I came out before.
You didn't ever talk to me,
I talked to, who's the guy with the pheasant farm?
Paul Harnica.
I talked to him and I talked to, the guy across the road that's got the little pond out there behind his house.
Yeah, he moved.
Yeah, well,
Right to do what they want as long as it follows the special use permit, which
Right.
you can't crucify them until they actually don't do it, right?
Here's a different question, because of this, the special use permit that they have, that, they're inspected so many times a year. In one of those inspections, we can request to have the engineer also attend. I don't know if that's something that it would take board authority to.
Right.
When is their permit up?
Well, they were supposed to come in like
December,
a year
they come
ago,
in
but they
December,
hadn't
it seems.
done anything until they started doing the berm work now.
Well, they have broke ground, so they need to be coming back here.
Well,
With
they
an
came,
Probably pretty
they
soon,
came
I would
back,
think.
they came back.
Yeah, they came back, and
Yeah.
so, and your
Oh,
issues
but they
is
said they
what
didn't do
exactly,
anything.
so that I'm up to speed.
Now that they did so.
Let's see, the barn doesn't follow the site plan that I was given.
Oh,
It's
really?
not following that. The mowing actually got done, but that took some discussion with, I believe, Tony Youngblood. Also talked with him about they don't do anything unless you prompt them.
Okay,
So, I get
Well-
tired of being a babysitter here. The blasting, I've always had an issue, not with the blast itself, but how close they can come to my house now.
right,
300 feet, I think that's a little ridiculous. But they're not up that far yet.
right. It's my understanding, he won't get there for a long time.
Nah, that's not their opinion.
Brian, can you put that in writing for us?
Pardon me,
Can you put that in writing for us?
again,
Yeah,
Would you mind?
so go back to the berm, what's the matter with the berm? I was surprised he got as good a catch on it as they did, and they did mow it, so I
No,
thought.
it's supposed to be bumped out around the farmstead. It was supposed to be bumped back in the field,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh, I
Didn't
didn't
you
know
notice
that.
that it's bumped out about half as far as it should be? Which I took a call to Rob Hayes and he said, well, I guess there's 2 site plans, yeah, and so they moved part of it, but they didn't follow through. And Rob says, well, that's our interpretation. No, they got
Okay.
bigger pockets than I do, so they win.
So they didn't follow the site plan,
I don't think they did.
okay.
Well,
This would be the
engineer
first I've heard of it.
figured that
Yeah.
out
I
on the
know.
inspection. I mean,
This
Because
is-
they just got it done
That's where the
last year.
engineer should go and
Yeah.
do an inspection and like
Okay.
they're supposed to.
It was only done last year, so.
I mean, then they would find.
Right.
Cause under that permit that said so many inspections per year, and then something, with the engineer. So I don't know, Daryl, if that's something, we'll have to dig out.
I don't have
that
anything
folder,
here.
is that one's
I
at
don't
home.
have any of my stuff there.
Daryl's got more muscles than I do for carrying that much stuff.
Daryl's probably still got a sour taste in his mouth from all of that.
wow, that was a long time. I mean, that was,
What, 2
you
years
were
ago?
here.
Yeah.
I mean, you and Paul sat right there in the front row, did you not?
Yeah,
And I mean, that was, meeting after meeting after meeting, and I mean, they brought the big board in. I mean, Doug was here, Leroy was here, Pam, Jimmy.
I
We
know,
were-
Doug told me I was being short-sighted on what my property values would be. I've yet to see that.
And here's the thing, you know, that was the most, restrictive that anything that has ever been done with those folks right there. When it came to, bringing them back in on a yearly basis,
Yeah.
when it came to inspecting the homes, everything that was, you know, put in place, we listened to all the citizens, what they come in and had to say, and you have sat on that dais right there, right?
I have,
You certainly have, so I mean, you knew exactly the lengths and measures that we went through to protect everybody that we could in that area. We
I'm
took,
not arguing with you on that.
no, I know, we took a lot of input from people and,
All I want them to do is follow what was laid out.
that's all anybody wants them to do, and you know what? They should, they should.
I'd personally rather have a solar farm there, but. Just
That
saying.
should be
There's
the
always
sale.
something worse.
Can't wait for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the overlay district.
We don't have that.
We can
I got
talk.
it stored.
You got added to it.
Well, can you address the board about, the engineer going out there, Daryl? Is that something that he can do, or how do we get that figured
I
out?
was taking notes, and I know Anita's been taking notes, but Brian, if you could write up, you know, the specifics, so that way, if Daryl's got it for the meeting next
Who do I
Monday,
send them to?
probably best person I would.
Look,
I don't know.
Send him
He'll
to
stick it in that
Anita,
file,
she can
okay.
get him to all
like
of
like those pictures right there
Yeah.
provided by Mr. Arnica,
Yeah.
right there. I do have,
All I want them to do is.
We're glad you brought the big bag tonight, Daryl.
I know you are.
I am, I'm impressed.
This solar thing is easy compared to what the
No, I.
other thing was.
Yeah.
So requesting Daryl to get approval from the board of trustees to have an engineer accompany the inspection to make sure the site plan is being followed.
Well, we're definitely gonna need that, cause if they come back for their annual,
Yep.
we have to make sure.
We wanna know
everything's
before they
followed,
come back for
sure.
their extent, for their,
So,
I'll put together a specific list of what I see that doesn't follow, and maybe me not seeing it.
well, that's fine, he'll take
drop
it
it
into
off.
account.
You see me in the yard, stop, drop it off.
Who do I send it to?
Actually, you could probably send it to me.
Yeah.
I'll give you my card,
What,
because I make up the agenda, so that way I can make copies for the board.
I'll see you before I leave.
So, so what are we looking at right here? Cause I got all kinds of these right here, I mean, if
Yeah,
you
I
could.
got the whole shebang.
It's, the Eagle got.
Yeah,
more
but
of the
I have
same
it in
stuff.
front of me.
You don't know how that berm actually went.
Yeah, I want
I
you
can
to tell
see
me
right
what's
here,
screwed
a
up.
bump out on the site plan.
I seen one, yeah, right over
Well, there's one, because
One right
the
on the
Eagle
page.
got a bigger
Yeah,
setback
that's
than
what
what
I
Brian's
can
house
see
did.
it from here.
There's an eagle nest over there, and that setback, because of what the DNR has and whatnot, the
See
eagle-
where you
You're
rank.
talking about this?
If that needs
I know,
approval in 11
that's
days.
okay, you know what?
DNR,
I
right?
read
Yeah.
this thing,
Eagle
right,
nest.
Yeah,
Brian, if
Okay.
you could write that up. and
But if they're
you
not
can-
following what they're doing,
Right, you have to follow their
Email
site
that to
plan.
Anita, Anita, then email it to all of us and get it on
Township.
there.
Yeah, well, they can't, we'll have to, it'll be cold before we get it back, but we need to see it.
Well, had.
We need to know so that in December we can put some teeth into it coming back.
So-
I mean, that's what I look at it. You're not gonna get them to do anything with one thing. Too much ground.
They were pretty good, they were right up there. I was like, well, we didn't know. We'll fix that.
nobody's checked on them.
It starts,
Right.
you know, what the gravel,
You gotta make
it
sure
should come out,
he's correct.
I thought, the other side of the house.
They do.
That's the way I.
I think we're
Because
set
then
to
it comes
go
back
here
to
for
front.
citizens.
Oh,
Yeah.
So can we,
Any other citizens?
yeah, is there any other citizens that wanna speak?
Yeah, I understand.
Thanks for 2 years of work on the solar ordinance. I mean, I was just talking to Kim about, it was November of 2019, I think, when Aaron and
We've
Sean
been,
came to their first meeting, so it's been a long road, but I appreciate the really, meaningful dialogue we've had over that time to, hopefully come to a good, good ordinance for the whole community, so.
Make
sure we did it right.
And I
I have one
appreciate
question.
Yeah.
one of you guys being here tonight.
Item you're adding to the solar ordinance, item 2, section 11, adding whatever. Does that mean that you don't need the solar overlay district to go
It-
along with it?
It has become part of the original ordinance that we sent.
Okay,
We
So there is
amended
no
that.
overlay district, we have amended the ordinance that the board already passed and just included ag 1, ag 2, commercial. So it's, you should be able to do it in 2 sentences, right, Anita?
I would think, yeah.
Okay,
Most
you wanna send it to me and we'll make sure, send it to Doug or something, make sure it's right. And then we'll get that to the board, Daryl will take it to the board on Monday,
Well,
Yep.
that'll be on the agenda.
it will be on the agenda.
Yeah, well, that's why I was gonna ask in the commissioner's comments.
Well, we're not there yet.
I know, that's why I
I'm
haven't
trying to
asked.
get there.
Watch that thing explode,
But
man.
here's the thing, that, and this has been,
you need like a doorstop.
I'm watching, I'm
the
looking.
planning commission approved the solar ordinance.
Yes.
And sent it to the board. The board did not approve that solar ordinance in the current,
Form.
verbiage and form that it was in. It got sent back to the planning commission to incorporate a solar overlay district in regards to that ordinance. So that has been added to the ordinance now, and it's gonna go back before the
For us
township
to
board.
adopt next week,
Yes,
Yeah,
either yes or no, yes.
thank you.
I just wanted to make
And for
sure
a
that I
yes
understood.
vote, Brian's gonna send you a gift certificate to Applebee's.
no, he's not. No, he's not.
Daryl's gonna have a lot for next week's meeting between
Sorry.
the ag industries over there to Dundee and then this with the solar for getting that done, but we kept it pure and simple and
Yep.
easy to manage. 'Cause
Well, that's a good thing.
You know, the one way that, you folks didn't get to see it, but that the ordinance for the overlay, we had to amend like 6, 7 different spots through the ordinance book to make amendments all the way through that thing because of what that overlay.
Right.
And yet, you looked at it and there was no necessarily rhyme or reason that it wasn't necessarily engineered out
Right,
for how it was laid out, so.
okay.
Yo, Dan,
Yeah.
you got, you still on citizens time or you done?
Yep.
Is there any tease to that, what you read on the end of life for the solar panel stuff?
Yeah, there's a bond.
Yeah,
bond
there's a bond.
that they have to,
Yeah.
Alright,
no, good question.
I just wondered if it was just a nasty letter.
Oh, no, it's a guaranteed.
No, that's what we get. We get those.
Motion to adjourn.
No, we've got commissioners' comments yet.
Oh.
You've been talking, the rest of us got stuff to say now.
Wait, Martin, we're gonna see 52 card pickup right over here when that bag explodes.
Alright,
It was in Azalea, like when I went across my phone, and that's only like a mile down the road, so.
right,
And when it got to mine, I think it was in almost to me,
right.
so I don't even think they realized that there was that problem there.
Circulation.
I've
Because
heard the
I'm
sirens though, so.
south of it, and we just had kind of like a rain, we didn't have the wind.
Right.
Well, I had people calling from Ohio and Belleville, and I was like, looked at my phone, I was like, what? Phone's blowing up, what's going on? I was busy. I had no clue. They're like, are you in the basement? I hope you're
I
in
mean,
the
it should
basement.
be looked into just in case.
And it was all
'cause
over, you know, on the
I
right
don't,
side, the TV
I
and
didn't,
stuff.
I
but
definitely didn't hear the siren go off.
Somebody knew,
I
they didn't hit
didn't.
that siren button.
I mean, that's right at the dragway there, I would have heard you.
Yeah, it was all over me, and
I-
then we put it on Facebook,
I
and so
just
many
think it
people hadn't
happened
heard
so
it.
fast.
I agree, but, I mean, it should
Could be.
make,
But it was,
make
All
right,
right,
but it was
well,
on TV.
They're the ones who come out and do the maintenance anyway. We
So
had
what
one
date,
that
what
was down.
date was that storm on? Does anybody remember? So when you contact West Shore Services, you can,
Would have
August
been on a
11th.
Tuesday or a Thursday.
August what?
11th, I
Okay.
think it was.
Thank you, Ken.
I think,
It's 11.
I think that's right. Or is that, no, that's a different one, that's the one that came through Ida.
It was very concerning on Facebook, because our
So
residence
it
page we
wasn't
put
the
out there,
11th or it was
No.
the 11th?
and a lot of people
No,
said they
It
didn't
would
hear
have
the
been a
sirens.
Tuesday or Thursday, would have been 12th
it was
then.
in September, wasn't it?
I'm thinking, I was talking to the guys at the golf course, and that was August the 11th, that tore up the golf course over by the fairgrounds.
Okay.
This one was after that.
Kim, one more time, you're gonna contact too, I'm gonna write it down.
It's called West Shore Services.
Never heard of them.
September seventh.
September 7th? Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, I thought it was September. September seventh is the date we're talking about,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
probably true.
so, okay. Any other commissioner comments?
Yes.
Too soon.
When's the last time the master plan was looked at? We got the 2004 edition, it was reviewed when?
4 years ago, it was brought up in a meeting when we were
Yes.
sitting out there,
Yeah.
and everybody said,
Okay, we were
I don't
right.
see any changes, there wasn't any motion made, nothing happened, and we walked out the door.
Yeah, and I asked a few years
Meetings
ago.
happened, or meetings happened back
Okay.
then.
Shortest meeting in history?
No, it wasn't a short meeting, it
No,
was the
didn't
shortest
like this one,
comment.
it's time to be over.
How often does it have to be reviewed?
Every 5 years.
5 years, we're
Yeah.
supposed to look at it.
And this is the 2004 edition is the last one that we have, that's it's been looked
No,
at.
Looked
That's
at
the,
4 years
that's the
ago.
addition, not the review.
You can review it and look at it, say, do I wanna make any changes, and the comment is no.
Right, I asked about it about probably 6 months ago.
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
got it in
say,
my
it's
notes,
been
but there
talked
was no
about.
definite, nobody could answer that, like when it was taken.
Well, they said, yeah, I think, Leroy said it was 5 years.
As long as it was done.
Anybody else?
Actually, I do. The letter to Ed, do you want me to send that?
That'd be fine.
Yeah, you
Okay.
got the notes, thank you.
Okay, and on the agenda, do you want, I'll get with this gentleman about ag addresses, I'll put that on, and also the extractive and solar ordinances, or that's just gonna be in
Oh,
the?
no, that'll be on the agenda if you can,
Yeah, Yeah.
coordinate that and get that on the agenda.
okay,
For next
Because it's
Monday.
gonna require board approval for
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I do that on Thursdays, I mean, I have a half written up, but,
Well, we
Okay.
can't adjourn without saying thank you to everybody in the township and everybody that contributed to our township cleanup junk day. That was awesome.
yeah.
That has never been done here as far as I can remember. Leroy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, it's been done before.
As far as bringing stuff here, because I know that
Oh, yeah.
you could take it to Carlton and
Yeah, it was,
load it yourself.
Melissa
Machines?
Beauchamp, she
Yep. I was gonna
created
say, she
one
created
3-4
one.
years ago.
That we could bring stuff here?
Yep.
Oh, I somehow I missed that.
And then they always had, they've had for the last, 3 or 4 years to take tires to the drain commission.
Right, that's a
Twice
separate.
a year.
Yeah, that's a separate
Well,
thing.
there it was once a year, and then it was twice a year.
We did it over at Dundee Cement.
Well, that's been
times.
before they
With
tacked the
tire,
staff.
yeah,
That was a
on
long
it.
That
time
was
ago.
great, we could take tractor tires in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, okay, clean out your attics, your basements, bring all your stuff. That was
Right.
awesome. Never seen it done.
Did any
So-
of you guys,
so many took
any
advantage
of
of
you
it.
farmers get a note that was asking you how many tractor type tires you have on your farm? There was a blurb in the Monroe paper that said Farm Bureau was gonna send out something.
Well, I don't
Oh,
recall.
I got a few I
that
could get rid of.
discussion.
But I couldn't shrink them down, make them look like a car tire and bring them Saturday, or I would.
So evidently not.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, anybody else, anything?
One more thing to reiterate, that Supervisor Penny Turner is looking for volunteers, for people who wants to be on the park committee. And there's some forms over on the shelf over here, or let her know
Okay.
if you want one, because we're also online. And we got the American Rescue Plan, the money's coming in, London Township is getting $289,797. And then I saw the Exeter Township newsletter, I think most of us got one in our mail. And they were going to use some of their money towards a nature park. So I was kinda connecting the dots there. So yeah, open it up to the parks, idea. So if you can get with Penny on that. And that's all I have.
I think we need to fix the air conditioning and heating
Yes.
system in the township halls.
Is there anybody else got anything? I got one thing. I did wanna let this board know that, Mr. Gerard called me on Friday or Saturday. Wanted me to let me know that the Deep and Horse Pond was complete, and that the cross pond on Allison Road is 60-70% complete. He's got some topsoil moved from there, but, I appreciate him, and I didn't call him, he called me to let me know he was making some progress, so I thought that was good. So, that, other than that, I have nothing else.
Motion to adjourn.
Amen.
Second?
Alright, all in favor say aye,
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried.
Have it. It is, your chair,